All right, guys, welcome back. We will wait for the pre-ban phase to finish up. It's almost there. Just a quick throw out to everybody here. That's pronounced Big B0 Ner. I just want to make sure that we clear this up because last time I really screwed it up. However, when we typed his card, zeros don't show up. It's still an O. So you may or may not be spamming something totally different if you play his card today. So if you're cheering for Big Zero or Big B0 Ner, you're solid. It's gonna be a great way to enjoy the card system today. Anyways, moving forward, Malona versus Big. Yeah. Thoughts? What do we think, guys?
We can call him Eska if that makes, because I know the
that's
zero, but yeah, the zero part makes.
I was gonna go with
I
Big
think it's
B.
hilarious. It's hilarious. It's good. I actually, I'm just glad that the card just showed it up the way that it did. And again, guys, I apologize that it doesn't quite work in this particular frame, just the way that this is being emulated. But we do what we can, guys. We're making it work with what we got. All right, jumping right in, we do see a Caesarado ban. As we were talking about earlier, with these bans, that seems like a pretty obvious. I'm probably gonna put debuffs on you, correct? That's what I would see when I see a Caesarado right off the bat. Into also a DN on the other side for Malona. What are we thinking? Because we're already seeing Dizzy now on the other side.
We're seeing Malona jump on that Caesarado ban and going absolute ham with the debuffs.
Yep.
I like it.
And
Looks
this
like,
will also be this will also be the first time we see Basar, who is a Dispeller, paired with Dizzy. So it's looking like if the speed tuning matches up, we're gonna see a lot of red things all over the screen. So I'm curious how that's gonna play out and how that S10 is gonna function with all these debuffs coming in.
Yeah, man, this is crazy. It was almost like they were both hoping to ban for Caesarado, but didn't have to. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, nice job, Panchui. Well done. So, yeah, there's the card, boys. So Watcher Shuri, that's a hover right now. Are we expecting to see Watcher Shuri pop out here?
I think Malona is thinking about a secondary Dispeller, right? So the fact that Eska, you said, picked FCC into the lineup of Malona means that it's suggesting it's very heavily suggesting a Basar ban right here, right? Because you wouldn't pick FCC into that. Basar is just going to put up unbuffable, all your skilled nulls, bears, and everything's gone. So, Malona does go for the secondary Dispeller in the form of Cerise.
Yeah. So with, do you think he'll still ban the Basar out naturally here, opposed to the Cerise?
Oh, he's going to pick one of the two evils.
Oh.
And he
opts for Dizzy.
Opts for Dizzy instead. Interesting. So Seaside Malona gone. On Eska's side, Malona isn't gonna have Dizzy. Interesting.
Well, we're gonna see if this Ruel can withstand the sheer amount of debuffs coming out from the enemy team. Because if this Ruel does get crowd controlled, stunned, crown slowed, anything, it is going to present a problem.
Yeah.
Because when Cerise and Basar are given free reign, they just start dancing all over you.
We have a stun coming out on Fire Tenny there.
Yep. Into the S3. How many restricts will be landed?
The restrict isn't super huge here, but the number of debuff that's going to be coming out, I think, if Malona does land a couple of really good stuns or CCs onto the Ruel and just get rid of the Ruel overall, he's just going to overwhelm with just debuffs. So we're going to see how much this Ruel can withstand the onslaught over here.
Quick question. Is Restrict not notable? Because the question now is, I've got a Basar and I have a Lilius who both do things to the other team who now can't actually be moved.
But they already used them, correct? Or at least the Bazaar did. I think it's not super impactful.
At this point, we're back. Okay. All right. Okay.
I'm a little bit surprised that the Lilius didn't go for the Provoke here. Because I think that if he landed the Provoke and managed to shut down the Ruel for 2 turns, it gives him a lot of space to just go ham. And interesting to note that no secondary debuffs really landed here. So and that provoke on the Bazaar was huge because the Bazaar would have S2'd and that would have severely crippled what the S10 wants to do. So now S10, despite getting like some nice debuffs on her, still gets the hit through and really limits the options of this Kayron here.
Seeing the S3 come out from Lilius. Pretty big damage.
That's a lot of damage.
That was a lot more damage than I was expecting to see out of that for sure.
So, do you just go for the CC on the... No, he is choosing to just let the Ruel be Ruel. Maybe respecting the number of ER coming, the amount
We're
of
talking
ER
from the
that
Cerise? The Cerise already stunned onto the Fire Tenny.
I
Yeah.
see.
Early. The interesting... Okay, but we do have... There is a taunt, though, on Ruel, so you're stopping all of the potential to getting any of that S2 action or S3 to sort of bring
Right.
anything back right now. So is this... Are they just trying to finish in the next, like, 1 or 2 turns as fast as possible? Is that Melona's basic goal at this point? Like, how do we get...
We're gonna see if he can get rid of... It's gonna be hard, right? Because the Kayron is gone, so a big chunk of the damage coming out from Melona is also gone with the Kayron. I actually don't think that he is in that great of a position. And we're gonna have to see like how the debuffs play out, because the Ruel still does have her S3. And if she does get released, and if they do manage to survive the onslaught, then you can do a number of things with the revived S10.
Yeah. All right, here we go. The shotgun Tenebria. Will it be enough damage to get through? There's one. Here comes the second one. Oof, that's some big damage. Bizarre.
Yeah, and only
Doesn't
one
quite
missed.
finish Cerise, though.
Yeah, so now Melona is in actually a very tough spot, and I would say that the biggest swing turn in this game was that turn when FCC decided to go ahead and provoke the Bazaar, blocking his S2.
There we go.
Because
There's the...
what that enabled was the S10 to get a clean hit on Kayron, get rid of him early, and Melona just lost a lot of his damage.
Yeah, that was huge. So back in over here, that's one game now for Eska right off the bat. That was getting rough there right at the end. What do we...
I'm pretty
some of
surprised
what
because
they're-
it was a strong start, wasn't it, from Melona's side? He landed the very first Bazaar, it hit and stunned the Fire Tenny. She didn't do anything almost the entire match, but what could he have done differently there? I think you mentioned the FCC provoke was the turning point, Lilac?
Yeah, because I think that what that did was that essentially stopped the Bazaar from applying blind and attack down onto your S10, right? Which in turn let the S10 completely dunk on the Kayron, and then the Kayron, just died very quickly after. So I think that in a lot of ways, after the Kayron fell out, there just wasn't enough damage to finish off the rest of the team. And even through all of those debuffs, there wasn't enough damage to take out the S10, and the S10 just did S10 things.
Yeah, that was pretty unfortunate there at the end. Lots and lots of like good, interesting picks. I personally never see that kind of stuff drafted, at least at the rank that I'm at. So that was interesting to watch because I felt like I had no idea even what to even say to some of it, because we are seeing like now Dizzy's getting added into see, like that's how I feel. And maybe I think a lot of these guys probably on the analyst desk can probably speak a little better into this, I think, but there's just so many interesting, especially like now taking what they were already doing, adapting Dizzy into these compositions as well. Like what? Like I wouldn't have even expected initially to see some of this stuff. So going into the next one, we have Dizzy, Seaside Bellona, and Cerise. So 3 water units for Eska right off the bat, into 2 fire, and the Spectre Tenebria.
I'm a little bit disappointed because he broke color. We had such a good setup going with blues on the blue side and reds on the red
Mono
side.
Weiss.
That's true.
And he went ahead and broke the color, for shame.
I almost don't think that would ever go well for the person on the red side. Maybe every once in a while, but much less likely.
I mean, we have Kayron who crits water, and
That's
we have
true. That's
Lilius
a good
who
point.
taunts water, so don't count them out, but we won't get to see that.
Right. All right, let's see. So Destina up here to kind of deal with the Dizzy. and potentially any other debuffs at this point. At this point, if you are on Eska's side, are you banning most likely the Destina right now? Is that who in your head you're looking at? Because it seems like Destina is one of the bigger threats against your 3-water initial units.
Well, it's also gonna depend a lot on what accompanies the Destina here, because Destina does do a huge swing on turn 1 if she resists, and then here's the Destina and the DJ, right? Because they both of them kind of perform the similar function. Destina does a huge burst of healing and a huge burst of CR if you debuff her entire team, and so does DJ Basar. So the fact that he banned out the Estheni means that his game plan is probably just gonna be, we're gonna kill your Kayron. You have no damage left. What are you gonna do?
Right, because it was 3 cleanses, so even if you remove 1, there's still 2 on the board. So I think that was a good ban.
Yeah, I agree. We're moving in. The Cerise is going to be the first one to go. Opts to go with the stun first, just to deal with the Kayron, because the Kayron was next in line.
It's definitely looking like when the Kayron falls, so too does, Melona's rest of the team. So I think he just, fervently click the Kayron until he's dead. And that's going to be his game plan.
Well, we'll see if he ends up going that direction. It looks like we're probably going to get up. Yep, here we go. The immunity to the rest of the team.
Could we maybe see a damaged DJ?
A damaged DJ is going to be extremely impressive, but also very unlikely, I think.
I was going to say, I think that's a new one for me, Chuck. Never heard of that one. All right, does S3 here, which should then at least tick, hopefully, 1 turn off on those.
Ooh.
Do we happen to notice? It's hard to tell because of the pixelation. I couldn't really tell.
I am very surprised that the Kayron kept his buffs from the Cerise S3. Very, very surprised. That might just be 15% in play or something.
Yeah, it has to be.
So the Kayron not getting down to 1 means that he just earned himself an extra turn. But do you think that's enough? Because they're just trying to get rid of your Ruel, right?
Right.
But in return, you still continue punching the Kayron, I'm sure. And the moment this Kayron falls, it's kind of just over.
Yep.
The Ruel is gonna move before Kayron gets a turn, likely, and then Ruel heals herself back up. And then after that, what is your win condition?
If he did somehow manage to take out the Ruel, though, it would be a grind fest, yeah?
It would be. It would be. And then we have a game on our hands.
So landing some kind of like sleeps here is pretty huge because we are trying to get that final thing in before on Ruel, because Ruel is very close. But all you have at this point is your Destina to boost. Is Destina able to boost like Lilius far enough forward to make that a reality?
That's gonna depend on how much Molas he put in Destina.
Yep, we'll see.
It's awkward now, right? Because if I'm remembering this correctly, Destina still has her S3, so you don't really want to put debuffs onto everyone because Destina just changed all of those debuffs into CR. Opted to go for the S2, which I think was a good heads-up play. Destina goes for the boost, try to snipe out the Ruel.
Is this going to be enough? We're going to have to see an S1 in here.
It's gonna depend a little bit on who the Lilius brings, I think.
Is it Kayron? Is it DJ? Or do we
Let's see a Kayron.
The DJ would also work, because if the DJ S1 stuns, that does what it needs to do.
Yep, that's a good point.
Instead, goes for the safer play. Wait,
Oh.
I thought he was gonna provoke the
Interesting.
Ruel.
I would have thought the
He
Ruel,
lets the
right?
Ruel live. That's interesting, because then you're leaving your Kayron like pretty vulnerable here, right?
Yeah.
Cerise doesn't get to punch the Kayron, sure, and then Kayron gets to swipe some people. I guess, let's hope this Kayron brought his oath key.
Interesting.
He's not going to go for the
confused.
swipe. He's going to go for the extension.
Was it still the safer play to go for the Cerise, or was it more, would it have been a better play? I'm actually just super curious now. What is the better play there?
it's hard to say what the better play was because of how the turns unfolded, right? But in my head, I was picturing that the Kayron would he would go for the Ruel, try to get the kill on the Ruel, but I think he didn't want to risk getting Destina or someone and ended up not killing the Ruel there. So instead he went for that line of play, and after seeing that the Ruel used S3 on herself instead of S2, he knows now that the Ruel revive is on cooldown. So that frees him up to go for the kill and the extension onto the Tenebria, I think.
Right.
So that was an interesting line of play that came out.
So we still have an S3 right now on the Destina as well too, don't we?
Yes, we have like a bunch of cleanses because Melona. If there's one thing that Melona's team is very good at, and that's cleansing. So she's gonna get that, and then the Kayron's gonna get a turn. However, I don't think the Kayron necessarily has any really super good targets unless he crits.
The water crits, there it is.
There it is.
Goodness.
Unfortunately, Rail takes a turn, undoes the water crit. He brought his oath key though, so
Yeah.
good on him.
All right, Cerise, probably at this point, it looks like a lot of S3s are down. Decides to pull
Stick
S3.
to the game plan, right? Once Kayron dies, he, alleviates a lot of pressure.
Right. And the invuln shouldn't be up for, even if it's a fully molded Kayron, we still have at least another 5 turns or so before that.
I think it's going to be really hard for Kayron to get a second S2 off.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Interesting. We'll see if there's enough damage still here, not having the Fire Tenebria. S2s to extend.
Gets the crown proc. We finally see that the crown paying off. Because that's always the risk on Dizzy, right? Do you bring crown or do you bring violin? Because violin lets you do so many things just because like Dizzy dispels for herself.
Right. That was, by the way, a very smart play. Probably the main play that you would do, but to go ahead and take the stun on Lilius is just smart because she does have S3 up, which would have given Kayron a turn right after her. So this is ultimately making it so that he's not going to get a turn on this next run, which is super good for them.
Yep. He's definitely abusing the weakness of Destina, and that is her extremely long cooldowns. Although, if we do get a snapshot at the CR bar later, we can see...
we need to see Kayron and
we need to see
else?
which EE the Destina was holding, which equipment that the Destina is holding.
Maybe if you send him a DM, he'll send it to you. Probably not.
That's okay. Well, the Kayron is under some danger here. Ooh. With the dual attack.
There he goes.
Now we have this really awkward situation where you have 2 debuffers and a Ruel versus 3 cleansers and no damage, right?
Yep.
So what's gonna happen?
Yeah, Eska just has a huge advantage.
Thank you very much for not taking 20 more turns.
That does make sense. So does that, I believe that's 2 for Eska then, making it a 2-0, a clean 2-0. Let's hand this back to the analyst desks. Dang, that was closer than I thought. Here you guys go.
Thank you. All right, so pretty in favor with for Eska / Big Boner. There.
So that's Big B O.
Oh, sorry.
Ner, sir.
Sorry,
please.
Big B O.
B0 Ner.
B0
Ner.
B0 Ner. Yes. That first game, Spectre Tenebria, was definitely a wrecking dream against Meluna's team there. And Tiber, let's hear what your thoughts are on that.
Right, so Melona had a very turn 1 forward team, bringing Bazaar and Cerise to heavily control the first round, and we saw that work. I don't know if people caught onto that, but it was actually an Abyssal proc from the Bazaar that landed the first stun, and then Cerise's S2 also stuns on the next rotation, so he was able to lock down the Fire Tenebria, and we know how strong she is, throughout the early parts of the phase. However, I think one key turning points in terms of the turns that happened in game that I think Lalik touched upon was choosing to Lilius S1 into the Ruel. One thing we need to keep in mind is that, first of all, Lilius's S1 in terms of the ally that she brings is random. It is not like Tamarin's, which is the greatest attack. So he very well could have not done the damage at all So it made more sense to try to S2 and provoke a lockdown at Lilius. And the other thing to keep in mind is that even though he had a lot of control early on, as soon as Kayron died and there wasn't a way to properly kill the Spectre Tenebria, you saw how powerful she becomes the later on you go into the game. And it was just game over from there. Too much damage.
Yeah, I think he really needed the Kayron to be alive to help get rid of that Spectre Tenebria, because without that, Spectre Tenebria just had free reign to destroy the rest of the team, as we saw. All right, game 2, Once in Love. Let's have you talk about the drafts and the picks there and what happened.
It's kind of interesting seeing. So we saw the first pick. We saw the first picks from Eska there. The first pick. And then so the thing that didn't make the most sense to me was why the Cerise was picked so early. I understand like it is good into the Kayron and it's pretty good into the rest of it, but why did that have to be like a first pick? Like, why not just take the Ruel earlier, right? I don't think in any of Melona's drafts it makes sense to take that Cerise against Eska. So it was just a bit confusing me for why. At the end, it worked out. It was really nice. The guiding light was really nice. I was also a little bit worried when I saw Dizzy Tenebria, and then he picked 2 cleansers and an immunity unit. I was under the assumption that Dizzy would be on Violin and the Tenebria would probably be on like Edeka's or something. It ended up being Abyssal on the Dizzy and the Ielas on the Tenebria. I'm still not sure if I liked the Violin on Tenebria there, but it felt like it had potential had he stripped the right target. But what really fell through was just like not being able to debuff and strip that Kayron right away was pretty rough. I honestly think Melona had an advantage in the draft. I think Melona's draft was better at the end of it. Maybe you guys disagree. I'm not sure.
I think I personally liked Eska's draft a little bit more, but then I think that's also just kind of where the playstyle comes in. I personally really like the way Eska was using his units there, at least. Even though Melona had the cleansers available, I feel like Eska had like a sort of a much more control team available for him, and the way he used it. All right, pre-bans going on. Let's swap over.
Thank you very much, dude. Wow. Okay, right in here with Kogar and Solara. They're going right after it, boys. No questions, no stopping.
Let's
Here
get
we
it
go.
started.
Yeah, baby. So we've got Fire Tenebria, Seadom as the pre-bans. If those don't feel targeted, like I haven't seen those yet at all. Are those targeted pre-bans?
I can't imagine so. I'm not. Do we know who Kogarn is repping? What streamer he's repping?
I will check that right now.
That would be me. That would be me.
Once in Love. All right, Once in Love. Well, good luck. But I think my guy's gonna take this one.
So this is
Kogarn always puts on a good show. Don't worry.
perfect.
That's what I like to hear.
Let's see. So we've got a Bruiser. This is the first Violet we've seen so far, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, good point.
We are seeing that into three water units now on Solara's side. So you have to respect the fact that Kogarn is definitely like seeing what Solara picked first and then drafting, basically saying like, okay, I got answers for that. Let's do this. We're gonna jump.
Yeah, I'm
directly
interested to see this Violet instead of like I would say like maybe a Charles instead. Maybe it's built really well.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Violet is super interesting, but then what really confused me a little bit more was how early the maid was picked. I think the maid being picked that early is
Rowana.
is a little bit risky, I'd say, because the maid does have a lot of checks in the meta right now. And we see ML Rin, not even Awakened.
Out of curiosity, can you speak into that a little bit? Because I know for a while, and this may just be a recent meta change, but my question would be, after we've seen a lot of, like recently people, like I remember people were first picking Maid Alencia was like a big deal. People were picking Maid Alencia as like their first 2 picks almost for several weeks. Is that just like an old adaptation, or is that still like a very like, yeah, I'm pretty confident in these characters. They can do what I need them to do. I actually opts to ban the Maid too. I'd be curious to hear what you
in
guys
this
thoughts are.
case, right, the maid was not picked with the Alencia. So what picking the maid early we'll just wrap this up super fast. It leaves you vulnerable to Alencia on the other side, Basar on the other side, and now ML Haze, right? Because every res that your mate gives gives a full immunity and a fat barrier to the enemy team. So, but we're not gonna worry about the mate. The mate just gets banned out.
That's actually a good point. So haste really making a huge difference on what you should be doing when picking your ML Chloe, maybe waiting a little bit further in your draft. That's interesting. I wouldn't have even thought of that, which speaks to my level of play. Well done, sir. Well done.
So now we get to see if you're confident enough in the S3 to just go ahead and rip it, because I think the Violet is going to counter here. Maybe he wants to counter because that's going to give him a full stack. Doesn't crit, and then that's going to be an S2 return, which honestly I think Kogarn doesn't mind that much. However, he should be wary of the incoming damage.
Yeah, his whole team already under half almost.
Dual attacks.
So like one of the strange things about the Violet pick, and probably the reason you don't see it that often, right, is because the counter attack can work against you, as we've seen, and it's just very difficult for Violet to do enough damage, right?
Out of curiosity, because I now have forgotten, what was the ban for Kogarn into Solara? Because obviously there's only one damage dealer here. We have just the SSB, and you have 3 other. Oh my gosh, she does, however, get crushed.
I think the ban from Kogarn was Fire Tenebria.
It was. Fire
I'm sorry, pre-ban. That was a pre-ban.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like what other. It must have been a damage threat that Solara had as that secondary.
Was it Kayron? I think it might have been Kayron.
Which makes sense because he did keep a lot of green units, so why not get rid of the Kayron?
Yeah, but however, so we see that now the SSB is gone. Then we have a lot of room.
Oh my gosh, dude! Kogarn basically making us look like what?
Yeah,
huh?
No kidding.
Dude, your draft is way better than we expected. Oh my goodness! It was honestly
talking bad about the Violet.
No, I was okay. So here's the thing, right? The problem with Violet is that you know for a fact what artifact the Violet wants to run, correct?
Right. So if you're gonna run Moonlight Dreamblade, right?
Exactly. So if the enemy doesn't proc your Moonlight Dreamblade, then the Violet starts suffering from damage. What happened there was that the ML Rin went ahead and took the attack up and gave it to the Violet, and that allowed him to go ham. So the ML Rin stealing the attack up and giving it to the Violet was actually huge.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh, ops for the Maid right off the bat. Kogarn's like, listen, I think I know a few things about Maid you guys don't, so I'm just gonna go ahead and toss that up number one.
I'm like maybe he does know something that I don't. I
know.
I love
Maid.
Maid.
That's not a flame. Not a flame. I literally
Maid
don't
is like
know
my
either.
favorite unit in the whole game, but I think that you don't pick her this early because you leave yourself vulnerable to stuff like Alencia.
Gotcha. Yep, and there you go. That Alencia pick coming second, like right off the bat. So we do see.
And we see Violet is banned out.
LQC. I don't know if you guys have seen some good LQC play, but I feel like I saw some recently, and it was kind of obnoxious. A really well-geared LQC is incredibly annoying. Plus, we did see one early in the tournament as well, and they also opted to pick up the ML Ross again, or not ML, specialty change Ross. That's not a thing.
I mean, with a kid as good as his, he might as well be ML.
Yeah, fair. So this will be interesting. Do you think he'll opt into picking that Ravi like we saw earlier and just go like super bruiser but like plenty of damage?
Oh, I think Solara now is staring down a lot of mitigation on the team of Kogarn, right?
Right.
Because Raz puts up a lot of defense up, and Little Queen just has her passive from existing.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So he's gonna need to think about how he's gonna pick apart this comp, and if he just picks a bunch of raw damage, then it leaves Kogarn up to just ban the Alencia, and then the Maid gets pulled through, right?
Yep.
So, and then if you don't ban the Alencia and you don't let the Maid go through, that's still a lot of mitigation, especially now with Rowana coming out, because Rowana undo a lot of what SSB wants to do.
That's huge, man. What a
and
great
a lot
trade.
of what Lilius wants to do too. Because remember, every Lilius S1 procs Rowana's S2.
Yeah, Kogarn having that Rowana pick is very nice.
Yep.
That Rowana pick is very nice.
Do you think that's a force? Do you think you pick Rowana here, just basically forcing it to go like, listen, you're gonna have to get rid of this Rowana because I know your team basically is screwed if you don't.
Well, it's not exactly screwed, but it's definitely very
It's a
very
disadvantage
threatening,
though,
right?
right off the bat, right?
There's so much mitigation already coming in on the side of Kogarn, so
Uh-oh,
having a
game's gone.
Rowana just adds to that.
Dude, they
have
drafted
some
so well it
technical
broke the
difficulties?
game. What happened? I think it's coming back right now. It just flashed for a second, so we'll wait for that to come back in. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect,
and this
perfect.
right here is exactly why I don't like mate super early into the draft. So we see that now Solara has 2 AoE dispellers in the form of Basar and Alencia. It really hampers what mate wants to do, and to some extent what Rowana and Raz wants to do.
Hmm.
So, you know, decides to just get rid of the damage and try to tough it out here, because Kogarn is practically not going to get too many buffs up at this rate.
Yeah, and like we expected, Solara quickly banned the Rowana there.
It's interesting, right? Because we're looking at like a similar situation to like Platypi's Dizzy earlier, like where do you just try to like, do you now play a game of chicken of how long do I wait before I actually use my S3 on your like on the maid, or do you just opt to do it and say like, well, actually, I mean at this point with Basar doing
Yeah,
this,
we'll have to see if it lands the end. Oh,
yeah,
off-
unbuffable
off
on
three.
Lands
everybody. Jeez,
Big
except
stun
for-
on the LQ.
Yep. So may still opt into doing it just to get the LQC an attack buff.
Right.
On
So
the
by
next
getting rid of both the defense up and the
That's huge.
res buffs from Maid, right? You actually just mitigate. You get rid of a lot of their mitigation. So it does leave Kogarn's team up for a lot of damage, and now we see that the S10 is already under threat.
Right. And Solara, I mean, obviously had the ability to wait and like, just see if there was anything on that S3, but I think he just opts into like, no, I'm going to take you out right now. So he's just going for as much AoE as he can to finish off that Spectre Tenebria in the back.
The Kogarn's play right there, like he pretty much conceded his S10 in that case, right? Because he knew the number of stacks that SSB had. He chose to go for the dual attack, guarantees the proc on the S3. So he pretty much killed his own S10 without the S10 even taking a turn. So that was a
Bonks,
little bit
baby!
surprising.
we do get a bonk coming out, but it's still
Freaking
looking
love
bad.
bonks. It doesn't know. I don't think it's going to make any difference here whatsoever, but I still like seeing them. So nice hit there. Yeah, this game is unfortunately looking pretty over, but
Yeah.
Kogarn still not ready to put it down. And honestly,
She had a miss, and she had unhealable. Oof.
Right. So I think Kogarn did a very good demonstration of like my concerns about picking mate super early on, because you know there are a lot of options that just shut down what the mate wants to do.
Yeah, and I think Once in Love's kind of quiet now. Once we're 1-1. Let's see what happens, dude. Solara, like a Terminator, stayed calm, cool, collected, downloaded your boy. And
for what it's
oof,
worth,
not
you're
looking
shooting bullets at somebody who's on the analyst desk. That's not fair. He can't even.
Hey, he was
talk right
he was
now.
typing at me aggressively. I saw it.
All right, okay. We're going right into it, boys. Pick ban phase number 3, game 3. Let's do it. All right, right into it. Kogarn, we're seeing. Oh, whoa, Violet ban. Okay, interesting. Will that be a totally different setup now that we're going to see from Solara coming out? It is already seeing a Faithless Lidica. Interesting. Changes up his pre-ban to pick sort of a totally different team at this point.
Which one are you talking about, Art? Because Solara banned pre-banned Violet last match too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But we are at least seeing a different compo anyways, because look at
True.
look at this team.
All right. So the ML Ken comes out as a reaction to the speedy setups on the other side. So I mean, you guys have some experience with RTA, right? How do you feel about the ML Ken as a response to like stuff like CDOM, Flitica, A-Lots?
I don't think it does too much here.
Yeah,
Maybe just, I mean, especially he's probably going to ban the. Well, I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't think it's the best. What do you think, Art?
at least at my level of play, I'm picking an ML Ken into like an Arby, but probably not a CDOM, because a CDOM can like
Yeah.
straight wreck my face. But like Arby, you're probably not going to kill me, and I'm like going to retaliate on you. So interesting. I don't know about the ML Ken pick. Are they just gonna
Politica
let
as
that one
well
go
has
through?
skill null, and then she doesn't proc a counter.
Bans it.
It does manage to force out a ban.
Interesting. Why do you
I would
think?
agree.
You think so? The ML Ken you think was a good pick here, Lilac?
I don't necessarily like the ML Ken as a response to potential cleavers. I think if Solara had hard committed onto like a full cleave lineup, he would have just played around the MLK, probably killed him with the C-Dom, and then makes MLK look really silly. But then Solara went ahead and swapped it around, only half committed this time. But for some reason decided to ban the MLK. So I guess he just didn't want to deal with the potential of a really bulky MLK. We do see like some sort of like half setup, and do you think he tries to snipe out the mate here?
If he thinks he's got enough damage, probably. Oh my gosh,
That
the
would
dual
be-
attack. That
Would be enough damage.
Was that neat? Was the duel
RNG.
needed?
Oh my goodness.
I don't necessarily think so, because even if the duel didn't come out, there was still another turn following, right? So I
Right,
think
right.
that
That's
the
fair.
mate
That's fair.
would-
It would have, yeah, it would have. But it changes up the opportunities for that turn right after, because now he doesn't have to worry about actually finishing that. So that is a bummer. Elbrus procs here. Okay, cleanses that off, and we get a rebuttal from SSB, who lands a
Right,
defense
so-
break. Okay.
I think we're pretty much just gonna see the C-Dom delete one other person very soon.
I think that was the wise choice. That was good. Seeing that defense break right away, going like, yep, I can little queen that now. I don't have any fear of it coming back. What with
And now
the mind's eye being
games
up there
becomes
as
really
well.
hard to play. So I think like that's one of the dangers of relying on one single unit too much, right? So I think it's very easy to infer that Man is a big fan of Maid Chloe, tries to pick her really early on in the first two matches, but Maid has been around for a long time and people know how to play around her.
Definitely,
That's
very
crazy.
good, GG. Amazing match. Like you said, the first round was so telling though that Solara kind of figured out how to play there at the other two.
That was, really good adaptation. All these guys that are making it to the third game are adapting like very well. But just to not cut off the analyst desk, 'cause I'm sure they have plenty of things to say about that last one. I'm going to hand this over to you guys. Take it away.
Thank you. All right, that was interesting. Another game 3 match there, and definitely had me a little bit on the edge of my seat, considering I know Slayer is a very strong player. Kogern was able to actually take a round there and make it a little bit closer. But let's have Tiber talk about game 1, how Rowana countered Violet early on there.
Yeah, no, round 1 was phenomenally well played by Kogan. Like, that was rather unexpected, especially at first when we were looking at the mechanics between how Rowana and Violet play into each other. We saw how good the early game was to Solara. For those that don't fully understand Rowana's passive, her skill 2 allows her to heal the entire enemy team off of a counter attack like Violet does, as well as dual attack, etc. But it's that mechanic that makes you think, okay, I'm safe. Violet is mostly helping me. With that being said, though, Violet's debut in this tournament was incredibly strong. And that's because Solara had drafted double Soul Weavers and the Kayron, or whatever fire that was banned out. So he has 2 damage-dealing threats in Crow and SSB. And we saw Alense God just absolutely delete the SSB. And people might have been surprised when Violet deleted the Crow, but that's another small text thing that people might have not realized, is that Violet S3 gains bonus damage when he's consuming his focus, which he is, that he has gained throughout the match. So that was, I don't know if Solara necessarily expected to take that huge nuke from the Violet, but as soon as it happened, that was game over. 2 Soul Weavers aren't going to do anything.
Yeah, I think that was a really good pick on his end. Being able to counter his only damage dealers, Solara's only damage dealers there. All right, game 2, Pantry. Let's hear about that draft talk there, because Solara definitely had a good draft there on that end, and really having a few good picks there.
Indeed, he did. It was actually, I'm pretty sure that entire game was like all mind games for sure. Definitely, we saw a Rowana ban and a Kayron ban. It was kind of unexpected for the Kayron to be banned though, because it was probably an anticipation that Solara was going to leave the Rowana. However, that was not the case. Kogarn actually leaving the Bazaar still for Solara actually ended up being the killer for Kogarn in this case, because now Maycloy can't do anything. Also, as we move on to the game away from the drafts, we actually saw that the Lilius took the first turn and the Bazaar was actually very, very slow. This was actually a very big deal because this basically prevented like one or two things. We saw the maid that was on Wondrous Potion. That basically means that she wouldn't be able to buff. She wouldn't be able to do anything in this case. She actually cleansed off the Provoke, however, from the Lilius, but that didn't exactly matter. The Bazaar was actually right behind the maid, stunning the LQC, and actually ended that game very, very quickly. That rendered Kogarn's team useless the entire time. The maid couldn't do anything. She took her turn. No attack buffs could have been given over. And then from there, Solara just slowly dropped one by one with the Alencia and the SSB, ending Kogarn's life.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just want to do a quick shout out just to ML Rin in the first match there. Definitely put in some work. And then let's hear about game 3, how the early pick phase might not have been the best.
So there's a couple things. The early pick phase, also with that ML Rin, that attack buff steal was prime, absolutely prime. It was exactly what he needed, and he got it. ML Rin is prime, so you should build her. But yeah, so game 3, I think the draft is really, really the biggest issue here. Solara took a really big advantage over Kogarn by actually taking away his little Queen Charlotte near the end of the draft. He knew that it was something that he liked and it's something that he had built well, and so he just took it away. He said, I have the unit depth and the gear depth to do this, so let's see what your response is. And I think that sealed it for sure, because having that LQC taken away, I'm not sure what else Kogarn has for pocket picks, right? He's got the Alencia. He's got the MLK out there, which I think the MLK is okay with the FSSE pick for anti-cleave, but without the FSSE pick, I feel like it's quite weak. So the MLK there for the counter setup, but he just doesn't have enough to survive through, and also probably didn't expect so much damage from the CDOM, so it's kind of just, it is what it is. I think that the SSB early meant that he needed to play a little bit more, either like commit to aggression or commit to defensive nature, but he just didn't have enough to like really fight the SSB and the CDOM at the same time.
Yeah, I think the CDOM being able to snipe off the units there one by one instantly neutralized some of the threats, not to mention the dual attack there guaranteed and help lock in the kill there, making sure that, that the unit was going to be secured. He didn't have to worry about that threat afterwards in case of extra miss or anything. All right, so looks like we're gonna have to wait a little here. So on that note, there we had some pretty exciting rounds the last few times here, and then not to mention the next few rounds here we have Connected versus Kia Soul, and then we have Careless, which is part of my team. And then we have Lenryu and Huge Yang about to fight. So we have some interesting matches coming up. We have some good matches coming up there in the future.
So in terms of like drafts throughout the tournament, do you guys feel like there's anything that people are holding back that would be like a unit, specifically a unit? I'm not talking about like builds or like team costs or anything. Do you feel like there are any units that are just like unbelievably strong that nobody's really like picked out right now, or like really good pocket picks? We've seen a couple unique pocket picks. We've seen a couple people pick things like the Adventurer Ras and stuff like that. But do you guys feel like there are any that you want to see or you're looking forward to?
Elfelt, right? She's new. I think at least from a tournament in general strategy kind of mindset, these are all obviously very seasoned players, so doing something that people may not know how to play into, given how new she is, I think could be a really smart strategy just to keep in the back pocket. Playing the mind game, playing the draft game better, doing something unexpected, I think is a very valuable asset, especially when a lot of these people are all at the same level.
What are you feeling, Panshui? Looking for anything unique?
I mean, I saw what I already need to see. I saw I was able to see
So the
her,
waifu
feel
game
it.
done.
like,
And Emelrin's pretty good for that.
and actually seeing her take one win, and I was happy enough to actually see that. Even though the first one was an upset, I'm definitely proud of the second one.
Yeah, I'm looking most forward to seeing someone pick Baiken. And I know that's like really a stretch to say, but if somebody picks a Baiken and wins with it, I will be thoroughly impressed. Because I think she's good enough that she can actually run a team against certain people, but she's definitely a pocket pick and nothing else. Like, I don't think you can main draft a Baiken and play around it. She's too open to things like SSB and Crow.
Yeah, I'm definitely surprised we haven't seen a little bit more of the Guilty Gears, considering we just had the banner there. But I think Viking is definitely a strong unit that we can see being thrown out there if you get the right picks and bans, pre-bans to go through with that.
There's also one more unit that I'm looking forward to seeing, and it's actually a combo of 2 units. But I'm looking forward to seeing somebody pick Captain Rickarus with MLR against like a full tank team, because I think it actually has a lot of potential setup. The strip with so you strip the defense break, the defense buff, and you also have cooldown reduction, speed buff, and a defense break. So like you actually have pretty good setup into what ends up being an Etika Scepter MLR. So you're rotating your skill 3 at a 50% chance to lower it, and then you also get the guaranteed reduction. Plus skill 1 burns into dual attack with skill 2 is huge. You just get so much attack bar. It is something I've seen and I've tried it on someone's account, and I'm almost certain it can be used in this tournament knowing the players in here.
That's definitely an interesting one, because I mean, it's also granted the fact we don't know how many people have Captain Rickarus actually built.
It's a 3-star. It's
and
so easy to
invested
build.
into.
Yeah, that's true. And we do know that a lot of players do tend to gravitate more towards the fast, control-y aspect of the game. Like we saw Jinx play the speed game as he had previously in other tournaments. One notable mention in previous tournaments was Tryhard. We saw him in Pancher's tournament busting out those speed comps as well, of which MLR can easily be a shoe-in for. But yeah, I don't know if we can have another Miracle Watch Ashuri game though. For those that were there to see that one.
I think we'll see that later on, but I think it's pretty hard, especially considering, just to throw this out there, we know certain people in this tournament have a lot of gear and very good gear built up. So I think that requires very specific gear wise to make some team combos work there.
Yeah.
All right, and pre-ban's starting. Let's get into it.
Thank you, guys. Kinetic versus Kia Soul. Interesting. Immediately, actually, just to speak into like what character I would love to see, because I wanted to hit in so bad. I want to see Yuna. Like, I just want to see Yuna. Can somebody please just play Yuna? Just do it. What about you guys? Car, Lilac?
Yuna would be great, and I think we may actually see one in this tournament, but I'll keep my mouth. I don't want to leak too much.
You think we actually will see it?
We could, yeah.
Aw, shoot. That would be sick. That would be really fun. Don't know if we're going to see it this particular game, but we're going right into it. Looks like Kinetic's going to pick Alencia right off the top, and then grab Crow and Dizzy. So definitely tanking up and getting some bruisers right off the bat. Kia Soul, ready with the Caesarado to turn those debuffs around. You've got a little bit of that tank coming out with DN, as well as some pretty solid damage right off the... I mean, I feel like Kayron's a pretty safe early pick, right? So even though the damage may not be perfect in the moment, it was a pretty decently safe early pick. Plus, if we remember correctly, with Kia Soul is a very large fan, huge fan of the Caesarado and the Kayron. So it would be a shocker not to see those two
The comfort
show up.
picks, that's right.
He's
We saw him a lot
very-
in the prelims. There's one more arc.
Yep.
Do you remember who there was a unit he also likes to pick a ton here that put in a crazy amount of work. Let's see.
I can't actually remember. I think those were the two that I knew of. I know, interesting, Violet.
Ooh, another Violet comes out. That was not what I was talking about. We'll see how that works out.
Violet doesn't seem like a bad pick necessarily into what he's going into. So interesting. We'll see how this all plans out and what you end up getting rid of. If you're on the other side, gosh, who are you getting rid of? I feel like just Caesarado in general is probably the forced ban, especially if you've seen Kia Souls. You probably end up going Zerato, and then if you're Kia Soul, what are you banning on this side? Because you're probably most worried about what, like.
So he bans out the
Valencia
Crow.
or SSB? Ends up banning Crow. Interesting. I guess we're gonna see. Well, we'll see what they end up picking, and move forward from there. Because I'm actually extremely curious to know how this is gonna work and like how they adjusted. Because last time I got to see Kia Soul play, it was honestly a treat because I was not expecting his Caesarado to do what his does. So we'll have to see if it can do what it needs to here.
Yeah, correct. Kinetic may not be aware.
I definitely think that Kinetic is not super familiar with the matchup, right? Because I think anyone who's watched KSO play knows about his. He has a lot of confidence in his units, and he really, really favors his units, right? So there's a lot of picks that he's almost always guaranteed to go for. So picking Alencia, invites the Kayron pick, which we know that KSO loves. Picking Dizzy invites the Cerato pick, which we know that he also loves, and we know for a fact that Kiyoso's Caesarado, the last time we saw it, was a lot on the bulkier side, right?
That is a good point. I suppose if you had gotten the chance to do a little bit of homework in advance, the Alencia was still, it seems to still be a fine pick, getting rid of all of those buffs there. But yeah, agreed. Maybe later next time, just trying to sort of force him to make the plays, and kind of knowing especially that Kia does play a very similar playstyle most times, sort of picking and drafting around it. But for what it's worth, Kinetic may also just be playing what he's comfortable with and just kind of doing what he's used to doing as well.
There's also the reverse mindset, right? Where what if you're just drafting into his comfort picks, and if you manage to beat him like this, then what does he do?
Right. No, very good point. We do get a defense break up on the Caesarado, so if we can get one shot, he might actually pass off right here. We'll see.
So do you think he punches the Caesarado here?
Okay.
Because we know for a fact that his Caesarado is pretty bulky, right?
It is bulky, yes.
Yeah, and we've seen him win games when people try to kill this Caesarado and failing to do so. So we're gonna see if like Kinetic can take this round one to download the information, because I think that's gonna come in pretty huge.
I would agree. On the other hand, do you wait, especially when you said punching, do you take the punch from the Alencia? Was the Alencia the right pick necessarily to do that punch, or do you wait until you get another SSB hit where you feel like the SSB could maybe do a little bit more damage? Because I know he had the Mind's Eye up, but Mind's Eye, like unless you have like a ton of damage up front on that Alencia going into it, would it have made the difference? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think he was a little bit afraid of the fact that he did stick the attack down onto the SSB, so maybe he was a little bit worried that whether or not he had enough damage.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is looking like the reversal from the Caesarado is very real at this point. It's happening, and hopefully there's some way to turn this around. But with losing the SSB now to the Violet, I would suggest. I actually thinking about this too. To all the players out there, because I've been curious. I'm by no stretch the player you're coming for to ask all of your opinions on what you want for each character. But I am curious. A lot of people in the tournament so far, in all the tournaments, are doing this yield strategy right off the bat, as opposed to playing it out and giving themselves a second to really recoup, regroup, and go, okay, what am I going to play next? How do I do this for the next fight? Is it worth it for me to just play this out just for a few extra seconds to kind of go like, okay, I know I'm going to lose this one, but how do I sort of adjust my draft to make it better next time around? Because I honestly thought Kinetic did a pretty solid job. Honestly, like right off the bat, like I thought that actually wasn't too bad at all, especially knowing how strong some of Kia Soul's units are.
Well, there is giving yourself time to think is definitely, I think, pretty good, right? Like taking the time to think about how his units, taking the second to note down how much HP the units have, and to look at how much damage you're doing to the enemy. All of those are like important bits of information, and I think that against people who draft a very certain style, that's going to come in huge. But we're going to see if Kinetic does like factor that in here and think about what he needs to do, and think about like how he drafted, because I think just drafting Alencia first pick, Alencia is an incredible unit, brings so much to the table, but what is this? Oh,
probably
they're restarting
resetting, right? But Alencia really wants to be picked into something where she's most effective at, right? I don't think Alencia by herself is a standalone threat, and I don't think that Alencia by herself is really first pick material. I could be wrong. Someone probably has an incredible Alencia, but I think Alencia really wants to be picked into something that she is very effective against.
That makes sense. Almost more as a counter than it would be as a first pick for safety's sake. Interesting. Well,
yeah, I agree with that.
interestingly
It could have just been Alencia just being one of his strongest units. We saw earlier some people are limited by their whatever they have built at the moment.
That's true.
Not everyone has a super wide roster.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I know there's a lot of people that do have a lot of gear that's already up to 90, but I also know a lot of people that don't necessarily, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, their gear just isn't worth 90, and that's my gear for like 1,000% over at this point. So interesting. Well, with that said, we do have Kia Soul and Kinetic at minimum one more game. If you're Kinetic right now, and you now know at least maybe, depending on if he's listening to the stream or not, if you now know that those two picks are very common for that, what do you guys end up picking into this? I think it's tough. Since they are in their pick ban, I feel pretty safe that you're actually safe to say the things.
We look at the
way.
units that that was, even if you have no prior information, we look at the units that were picked in the previous match, and then you get some information on those, right?
Yeah.
And we looked at how he picked them, and I think that a lot of what he did end up struggling with was the amount of damage output that he could do, right? So
Yeah.
we know that that Caesarado was on the bulkier side. So like you definitely need to bring some sort of like proper, if you're gonna leave him there, you definitely need some sort of proper single target damage to handle him, right? Something
not
like a
just any
Little Queen
single target.
Charlotte.
Yeah, single target
True.
that doesn't do debuffs ideally, right?
Right. So something like Little Queen Charlotte can come into play. Something like in a pinch you can even rely on Crow S3, stuff like that. And if you intend to pick Dizzy into that, knowing if you want to pick stuff like Dizzy SSB, then maybe consider banning out the Caesarado. But I definitely think that giving Kiaso his most comfortable picks while picking into his most comfortable picks is going to have to go.
Interesting. Well, I guess we can throw a little bit of what we were saying at. Interesting. Kia decides to opt into taking Alencia. Is this just like almost a flex to say like, I'm going to take your strongest unit? Sorry. Like
It could be, yeah. Because we
that-
said earlier he likes to pick his comfort stuff. So
Interestingly enough, he so far has not picked, and they're not banned either. Kayron was taken up by Kinetic, but other than that, like the Caesarado is still a viable pick later if he decides to go with it. Maybe just potentially thinking in this case, like, do I really need it for this particular fight? Interesting first pick.
Kiaso, I think Kiaso saw a little bit of the damage output coming out from Kinetic last game. So maybe he feels very safe just going for a bunch of big dudes, because we saw that he had some trouble killing the Caesarado, for example, and I think that he's definitely Kiaso is definitely thinking about the Caesarado and the ML Ken pick, because we do know that he is a fan of the ML Ken.
that's the one I was hinting at you earlier, Ark.
What's that?
The ML Ken when I said there's a third one that he likes to pick a lot.
True.
Right. So I'll be very surprised if the Caesarado doesn't come out here.
Yeah, good point. You will see that. Here's another quick question. Is it worth it for players, especially if you feel like, I don't know where Kia Soul feels like he is right now in this match versus Kinetic. And I was thinking about this for other matches that have prior happened. Are we kind of in a position now where if you feel comfortable that you can take a game 2, is it worth it to put out your secondary strategies in game 2? Or are people even mind gaming at that point yet to think like, okay, I know I'm going to have to play another match today against somebody who was a tier 1 player for each individual streamer that's been in here. Am I giving up too much by picking totally like separated picks in game 2? It'd be interesting, I guess, to see. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that was even thought of?
Well, that might be a concern for some people, but I feel like if a lot of your draft just revolves heavily around very commonly used units and very much like highly expected units, like if your draft features a lot of DN, Crow, Kayron, stuff like that, things that people have always seen before, then it's not really a surprise at that point. So I think you're mostly just, if you have any pocket picks, a lot of I think the initial rounds, you're just kind of saving your pocket picks maybe. But at this point, I think if you win the first round, you kind of just go run it back on the second round, see if they have an answer, and if they don't, then just get an easy 2-0, move on without revealing anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that, so do you think we're seeing that in this one, or do you think we actually are seeing like a totally different style? Because it feels semi-different to me, but it might just be because Kayron was picked on the other side.
I think it's pretty similar with especially with the pre-bans or swapping pre-ban to Violet. It's just, I think Kinetic is kind of limited. He seems to be forcing units that, like I said earlier, his Alencia, that early pick, I think he just has some certain very well geared units.
Yeah, that's very possible. So funny because like even to say that at this rank and these rating, like all the guys that are in this tournament like are no slouches when it comes to like their pools of characters and everything else. So even when we say limited pool, comparatively,
Yeah,
that's saying to like even
limited in
another
a,
person,
a
you know,
pool
like
of
it's crazy.
elites. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. Gosh, there's a lot of strong players in this tournament. Really good, really fun to watch. Gets the strip and the defense buff up.
Well, that's a little bit surprising, right? Because went for the Alencia S3 knowing that DN saved her S3 and knowing that Roana still has her S3. So now he's assuming that Kinetic plays this well and don't give him free Mind's Eye procs. He's going to be down the Dispel for a couple turns, which gives him, leaves him open.
Yeah, that's huge. Was that a misplay? Interesting. Because what would we have had up at that point? Just the DN buffs, I think.
I think we'll see.
Yeah, interesting.
He might
Maybe it was
be
more
just
worth it.
favoring the defense up, but it's a little bit too early to tell what kind of game plan he has, because now the side of KSO does damage very slowly, other than maybe Alencia, right, and like a Crow Horse.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he just wants to like turtle it out and just get it up, expecting the match to go long, and just wants to put up defense buff forever, right? Because between Alencia and Crow, that's a lot of defense ups.
Yep. I think you're making a good point, because I guess my next question would be, oh my gosh, that was so much damage. Holy cow. I guess the question would be, at this point, did they pick these intentionally hoping to go like several phases of Frenzy in? Because you can see, other than the Spectre Tenebria and the Dizzy even kind of is a little bit tankier than some other mages. Are they both kind of just trying to tank each other out at this point?
I think what Kinetic might be going for was the revive synergy with S10E. More so that than really counterplaying anything. And because S10E kind of just, does S10E things if you allow her to. So, we see that he finally rips the S3. In response, the Lilias S3 gets rid of that. And I think maybe Kinetic at this point is having a little bit of thought about, like, maybe the Dizzy won't be super effective in this matchup.
Gotcha. Interesting. I guess the one thing that the other side doesn't really, or the other side being Kia Soul here, does not have is a healer. So it'll be interesting to see if they're just going to rely on just the general tankiness and going all the way down, because we do see two healers on the other side. One being a more utility one through DN, but also having the Rowana.
Mm-hmm. We see that the Dizzy is not super tanky here, because the Dizzy is getting like a good chunk of damage, but we do see that Rowana is providing a lot of mitigation, though not quite enough here.
Right.
Between the defense breaks coming from Alencia and just, the sheer amount of focus that TSO is doing, it's going to be pretty challenging.
Yeah,
and,
no,
know,
So
I agree.
this Spec Tenny is also she's not pumping out enough damage. I mean, of course, it's against tons of walls with defense up, but
Right.
And we see here that he kind of played into the Crow Horse a little bit, didn't he?
yeah.
In fact, I'm pretty sure he ended up clicking the Liliest. I wonder if he has a plan for the Crow S3 that's coming inevitably.
Yeah, it is
I
definitely.
mean,
coming out.
besides revive, I don't think there is a plan, is there?
Yeah, and if these get ripped off to reduce like all the other buffs, there's going to be a lot of pain coming in here really soon.
Right, because DM buffs don't really matter to Crow's Horse when he does true damage. So unless he gets a really lucky dual attack here, which he does not, I think we're going to see a big fat horse coming.
And are you taking out probably DN in this situation?
I think so, because if you take out the DN, S10 loses attack up, right? And then
yep.
it gives, that would give me a lot more confidence in
He opts to
navigating
go
and
the opposite
tanking
direction.
that.
Woo.
Yep, takes out the Rana clean, doesn't get punished, doesn't miss. I'm wondering if a miss would have mattered there.
Yeah, I was about to ask that too. That was a little bit, could have been a slightly risky play.
But doesn't get punished, so it's okay. Rwana's not out of the picture. Revive option is completely gone. It's gonna be one S10 versus many people.
Oh my god, was that an Elbrus proc right there?
That was an Elbrus proc. Interesting to
That's
note
so
that
frustrating as the other. Yeah, that's
that
not
the
what you want
Lilius
to
is
have
just gonna die
happen to
from
your
poison.
Spectre Tenebria.
Yeah, right.
Right, and then the DN has a big chance of just, dying. Oh, lives. Manages to get the S3, S2. Goes for the barrier. Opts for the immediate mitigation against the crowd. Okay, so now S10 has a very big opportunity to swing, especially because, did he miss a crit
No,
I don't think so.
on
Maybe
the
it was
crowd?
I think it was.
I don't
Crit
think
didn't
so.
kill that crowd?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we saw from the very first time she attacked, it wasn't doing very much. I don't know if it's Kinetics spectating here or if it's just
That's a little
Kia
bit
Soul's
unfortunate.
defense.
Yeah, I think now that we are finally down to the Spectre Tenebria, that was valiant, man. He was Kinetic taking the Spectre Tenebria all the way to the end, hoping to finish off there. Doesn't quite cut it. Thank you very much, guys. Both of you two. GG's. We're going to hand this back to the analyst desk.
Pretty exciting games there. That second game definitely was a lot closer than the first game there. But on that first game, a few things to talk about there being the SSB and maybe some of the choices on skill usage might have been a little bit better. And Tiber, you want to talk about that for us?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. It might look like, looking at the gun through the barrel, so to speak, when you have debuffers going into a Caesarado, but you still have options throughout the game in the choices that you make on the turn to turn. Just because you have your skills doesn't necessarily mean that you can and should use them, like using SSB S3 right off the bat into the Caesarado extremely crippled him, and not waiting for the Alencia's Mind Eye to proc before going for the Champion Zerato, greeting that S1 without the extra turn proc, just ended up killing his Dizzy. We saw the big nuke that came out of that. So some mistakes may have been made during the draft, but also I do think that the match could have been played a tiny bit better.
Yeah, I think I'll have to be honest. Kinetic's draft there, I think his team setup was pretty solid already. If he maybe was a little bit more patient, there was a very good chance for him to turn that match around in game one, which was a bit unfortunate there, a bit of a misplay. So moving on to game two, Pancho, you want to talk about game two there, and that being such a close match, what went well right for Kinetic that time?
I think that entire match was, I wouldn't exactly call well, but it was almost like a repeat of match one where he was very impatient. But even though he did pop out to be like, there are some cases where it was decent. Him using his cleanse on his DN, his S2 on the DN instead of S1, and giving her that push, that extra push so that she could recycle her skills again, was actually quite bad. It basically means that if anything were to happen, if the Alencia were to target the Dizzy, in which the Alencia did, got her Mind's Eye, hit the Dizzy, the defense break just lingered there the entire time, which was actually quite bad. Because he didn't use any of his skills on his DN whatsoever and held off on both the S3 and S2, there was a lot of missed opportunities for the S Tenebria to even take any kills. In that match, we actually saw the S Tenebria hitting the crowd multiple times. However, I think she didn't exactly crit him.
I think we saw 3 missed crits
There
that
was
game.
3 missed crits in that entire game, and that was quite bad. Another was that he could have let that Dizzy rip her S3, except he chose to keep on focusing the corral instead of going for the Lilius and actually removing out the problem so that he can actually enable his Dizzy. If that Dizzy had a chance to play the game the game probably could have gone a lot differently.
Yeah, and I mean, game two was definitely a lot closer than game one there. Probably a little bit impatient, but I think overall there were things that he could also once again have done a little bit better there. But I think drafting wise, he got pretty good drafts against Kia Soul. First game, not knowing what Kia Soul was really used to picking there. And looks like Once in Love might have a few things. Do you want to just let us in on your thoughts?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I don't know if everyone saw it, but the Chatty on the Spectre 10 and Bria. We also saw it on Kogarn, which was... So it's an interesting pick. It does work in the right situation, but I don't think this is exactly the team or style you want to use something like that. And you generally want to go for the more aggressive play when your Spectre is your main DPS and you're not like trying to, protect her with her own artifacts and stuff. The other thing that I wanted to mention that was relevant was putting the stun on the crowd, like Penshui said. If he had put the stun on the Lilius, he would have been able to pop the Dizzy skill 3 right away. Fighter Maya doesn't actually do super well into Dizzy. If you skill 3 and skill 2 cycle, she does like slowly take off the debuffs, but you have a lot of debuffs to hold her back, and you can push her back as well. Plus, if she Elbrus procs you or Dizzy, then you get the Roana proc for heals and stuff. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is there was actually a part where I wasn't sure if Kia was not confident in his damage or maybe overconfident in his damage or he's showboating or something. But the Fighter Maya skill 3 into the DN, I believe, right, was actually a throw. Like if Kinetic had played his DN skill 3 right after, instead of skill 2 cleansing himself, he actually could have killed that Crow even without the crit, because the attack buff difference would have been enough. So like the Fighter Maya skill 3 there was a throw because you throw off your defense buff. If you kill, you throw off your defense buff, and you're not going to do a ton of damage either way, right? Like, unless you're on a huge crit damage build, you're not killing above like 30% range.
Yeah, that's true. I think definitely a bit of probably overconfidence in his Fighter Maya's damage there, thinking since, I mean, overall his team, he was doing a lot of damage overall there. So for sure, I think he was confident in his damage, thinking he could actually take out the DN right away there, which could have possibly thrown the game there. Granted, I think also if that Spectre to Nimue got a few more crits in, that would have definitely changed the favor into Kinect's, brought the favor to Kinect's side there. All right, it looks like the pre-bans are starting there, so let's hop on over and let's see this next match.
Thank you very much, dude. All right, so we're back into Light and Rue for this is going to be the last game of round 1 before we start going into round 2. We will take a short 10-minute break between those two so that the casters, analysts can just take a second to go, I don't know, drink a beer or something, whatever they want to do. They can do whatever they want, okay? So we're going to go into this last one, though. Huge Yang versus Light and Rue. I do want to mention that if Huge Yang makes it through this one, that means that 3 level up together team members make it through. Not biased at all, not even a little bit. What do we think of these drafts, though, man? They are like lightning out right here. We're already almost to the end of it right here. Oh my gosh.
I think
Fire
this draft
Charlotte.
is going to be pure unadulterated hype. On one side, we have the Huge Yang, and the other side, we have Charlotte, right?
Yeah, baby.
Not much else to talk about other than Huge Yang trying to go for the huge plays, and then Red Charlotte over there getting ready to swamp it out. So we'll see how Huge Yang navigates this, because this is kind of, in some ways, the cleave thing navigation into a bunch of bulky people.
Light's known for his Charlotte, right? I think last time he tried to pick it, his opponent banned it when I saw him in the prelims.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see if the Charlotte gets to do work here. Also, this Kayron outsped everyone.
Yeah. Didn't get the... I'm assuming when you're that fast, you usually go Alexa's Basket, right? So did not get the Alexa's Basket proc, and he did not get the crit.
And got resisted on the silence.
Ooh.
So Akoli's gonna poke someone. Possibly get the stun. I don't think so. Usually, they have a bit of F-res.
These guys back and forth, just ready to just laugh at each other back and forth. This is awesome.
This is going to be difficult, though, because Judge Kise's S2, S3 represents the most amount of AoE damage in the game in one turn. So if anything manages to survive this without some sort of immortality, it's going to be pretty impressive. So then how do you come back from this?
That's kind of huge that the strip didn't come out. Although it's still feeling like, I mean, this is a cleave team that I'm not wanting to go against.
Kind of huge. I see what you did there.
Yeah. Guys, again, not biased, not even a little bit.
Mhm.
All right. So, well, what do we do here? Like, how do you stop the descending blade?
Well, if he gets a kill here, maybe Kayron. No, I was gonna say if he gets the immortality or the second life out of the way, there's a chance
Right.
with Kayron's immortality.
Well, Kayron's gonna need some. Never mind.
Gets the silence, so he basically
Kayron's gonna
can
need some. Never
burn.
mind.
Can't even burn the S1.
Misses.
Was that all four miss? Oh
Young
no!
Man, dude, holy Yang coming out swinging. Game 1, just like, yo, dude, you ready for this?
With the dual attack.
Let's go! Very
Goodness
exciting match.
Huge
gracious,
Yang.
that's the end of game
Not just
1.
big Yang, huge Yang, enormous Yang.
Very large Yang. Very large Yang coming out with a huge game 1 win. I don't even. That's got to be one of the most demoralizing things when that happens, like that quickly, that fast, and also the people that are like straight up cheering on the other side, like, bro, the house is in here. Yang getting all the cheers, all the wins right off the bat. What does Light and Rue do to be able to just like stop this, turn this around, like, because that's got to be demoralizing, right?
Well, I think there is the case to be made where you don't try to tank the judge. Judge is pretty strong. I think a lot of people are familiar with how Judge works. Judge is pretty strong, and if you see the enemy start picking into this A-Lots with a bunch of damage thing going on, well, you're gonna need a little bit of a better answer. And Elena, it's not necessarily always the best answer without some sort of Aureus in play or some shields in play, because we saw the Elena just die to the S2. She never got the chance to proc her S2. She never got the chance to proc her S3. She simply died.
Yeah, we didn't get to see Charlotte do anything either. So, do you think Light should, given a similar draft, continue to choose the Charlotte?
I want to see the Charlotte work, if I'm honest. I want to see
If he takes out the J Kisei, like you said, Lilac, maybe Charlotte can put in some.
Even without the judge there were other damage options, and I think what I'm trying to think back to the match, and I'm wondering if the Kayron resists on the silence with the S3. I'm wondering if that mattered. Because was that Aquali's S3 in the big difference in damage that caused the Elena to just die to the S2? But then again, I don't think it would have mattered, because no matter how much tome she procs, Judge Kisei gets an extra turn, right? So she would have just died. So I don't think it mattered out in the long run. I do think that maybe we need to think of a better counter play, because there's a good chance that Huge Yang just goes for the same thing, right? Because that wasn't very adequately answered.
Game 2, why give up more strategy when you don't have to? Right?
And he's shown he does that in the past too, as well. Until you stop him, he'll steamroll it.
All right, so I think you gotta look into your unit pool and try to think of ways to pick apart the enemy's strategy, and that could come in the form of picking your own A-Lots and just simply using him to cycle. Like you deny pick some of the options that they used to set up, and then use them in your own setup. So that's like 2.5 denies, 1 pre-ban, 1 post-ban, and you pick them yourself.
What was the ban? Out of curiosity, what was the ban? Because you're right in saying like letting the Oxlots judge Kisei. That's such a huge duo combination. What was the ban that actually got through? What was the one that disappeared?
I actually can't remember, because I was too entranced by
I also do not
Yang's
recall.
name and the Charlotte pick.
I'm not gonna lie, same. I was really hoping to see some Charlotte action. That's unfortunate, because I've been thinking about that character ever since they did the rework, and I was really hoping that somebody that like felt comfortable with it would actually use it. So that's awesome. That's a pick that I don't think any of us would have expected to come out today, and unfortunately just ended up taking off the table right off the bat, just due to the comp that came through. So maybe redrafting and seeing what we can do from there. I know they are in the pre-bans right now. They're trying to get the right person on. Are we good to go? Awesome. Here we go, boys. Game 2. Draft phase number 2. Banning just completely opts to just ban out the Oxlots this time. So I think that essentially is also banning out Judge Kisei, correct? So now we should see something a little different.
I am very curious why the Flitica was also banned, because I can understand why Enru would ban Alots. What I don't understand is why Flitica was banned, because Alots and Flitica represent a lot of like setup potential. So I think we might see Huge Yang doing a huge turn in strategy here, especially with the FCC.
So good, dude. I love the puns. All right, let's see. I'm still a little confused. So you were talking about Alencia earlier, and maybe the analyst desk can maybe speak to this a little bit later too. Is a lot of these guys are picking Alencia relatively early. Is there something that we're missing necessarily as to why they would do that right off the bat? Because I see there is the FCC, so I guess technically the FCC was chosen. But is that like the immediate counter, or do you usually wait until there's more buffs? That's the thing that's a little confusing to me.
I think Alencia is strong, and I think that Alencia, as long as she hits something, is good enough to pick immediately, right? I just don't think that she's super necessarily very first pick material. Because in this case, she does get rid of the FCC shields. She does get rid of the skill nullifier by herself.
Yep.
And she does put up, the defense up. So that in itself is good. I just don't think you blindly first pick her.
So
we
we see a Charlotte, but it's not the Charlotte we all wanted.
It's the different
but
one.
Still hype.
But we still got a level 50 coming out, boys. Mine too.
Well,
I love that character. She's so freaking
All
fun.
I can say is that if that Cerise does not outspeed, then this Cerise is going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Missing an
that's fair.
awakening as well.
Yep. So we're really banking on the Cerise S3 just landing and also outspeeding. We know for a fact that the Kayron is faster than the Akoli.
The Kayron is. Oh, good point.
Yeah, that's a good point. So then he has good intel on what kind of speed. He bans the Akali anyway, but yeah.
So that
Would
means
you
he's
have
ultimately
opted to-
banking on hopefully getting a proc from that Alexis basket this time around, right? Because that was something we also didn't see last game, was a proc on that Alexis basket to, ultimately give you the upper hand on that first attack.
All right. Well,
It does happen
I
this time.
immediately am very afraid of the CDOM because we see how much damage CDOM can do. Manages to get the Alaska basket proc this time, but don't really have a really great target. I don't think he's gonna kill here for how much speed he has.
Yep, that's a thick shield. Oh,
Yep.
more damage
So
than
it
I
was
would have
close.
expected.
It was close.
Yeah.
And now the CDOM is gonna poke you very gently.
After this, though, we do have the RB attack. Is that going to be enough?
That's gonna bring the CDOM up, and CDOM's gonna do her thing, and the CDOM is gonna, pelt you with a little bit of lightning, just the
Yep.
cheeks.
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy,
Dude, I need that
Yep.
character though. Hello?
Right.
Smile game?
you're basically choosing who you want dead at this point. Well, other than the K run, right? But yeah, pick one, anyone.
Yeah,
Probably Charlotte or Crow.
Yep. Oh,
Why
Or
not
both.
both?
Yeah,
watch
why
out,
not
both. Oh my goodness. Huge is
Okay.
literally putting on a clinic right now as far as I can't even tell if it's gear or picks. I think the analysts will have more to speak into that. I'm very excited. But oh my gosh. Is this going to be it? Like, are we at that point? We've got Mischance up on Kayron. He is down to his final legs. This is going to maybe strip all of them, but is that even remotely close to enough to be able to turn this around?
Very,
Ooh,
very
it does
difficult.
strip
That
everything.
mischance on him is huge, for the lack of a better word. Because even if he gets the kill here, it's going to be very difficult because that mischance is going to stick and he's going to have some troubles killing the rest of it. He's basically forced to kind of go for the Arbiter Villager here. He can't even go for the CDOM.
What opposite to Charles?
Chooses to go for the Charles?
But misses.
It's a little
Huh.
bit surprising. I think the Arbiter Villager is just going to clean up no matter what happens in
Right.
this case, since he didn't die. Because he still has his second life and Kieran has used up his.
Correct.
Alright,
Dang.
would be unfortunate to see a smash here.
Oh no.
Oh
Dude,
no.
Insult to injury, and Huge Yang takes the game over Light and Root. Guys, we're going to come back to some amazing analyst desk action, but before we do, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break. Hopefully this video does not crush the entire stream, but it might, so we'll see you guys in 10 minutes.